Dana Abercrombie, the Koalition. Thank you for speaking to me.
Oh, hi, Dana. How you
Hello.
doing? How are
I'm
you?
I'm doing great. You're looking wonderful. This movie is wonderful. I I loved this movie and your character so much because what we all think is one way ends up becoming a completely different another way. So what was it like to dive into Tentacular and really know where his heart really lies?
Tentacular is me. Terry Tentacular, for real. Because a lot of times, I look at my time as a professional athlete. You had to have this braggadocio. You had to have the narcissism, just because to overcome a lot of self-doubt, you have to be bigger than life. And Tentacular doesn't feel like he's a villain per se. He's just doing what he has to do with the rules and the way the world is. It's kind of like, hey, he didn't make it. He's just playing the game. And I remember feeling like that when I was playing. I mean, you had to really pump up stuff. But the problem is that when it's us versus you, when it's your way or the highway, there's a lot of scorched earth and there's a lot of hurt people. And this is why, a lot of times when athletics are over, there's so many athletes or even entertainment personalities that have a lot of issues simply because that stuff doesn't work in real life. You know what I mean? It only works in a competitive setting, And so I understood him in a lot of ways because he's not bad. I mean, this is entertainment. It's entertainment. It's got to be, he's got to move on to the bigger job. He's got to move on. He's got to blow up or it's all failure. You know what I mean? And that's the way he looks at the world. And, I don't think he's wrong. But at the same time, in the context of what life is, it just doesn't work for a lot of people.
So do you mean that for Tentacular, because he starts off as being a good guy,
yeah,
and then he takes that complete heel approach. So is it because the way that he's been doing things for so long is no longer working for him, or does he want change?
I think about this. When you look at, I remember when LeBron James left Cleveland,
Right.
Boo! He was instantly a heel. They were like, "You're going to Miami, man. You hate us, man." I mean, if you lived in Cleveland at the time, you would have thought LeBron James was the devil. I mean, that's just how it is. But he was doing what he had to do for him. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like that. So when I look at the move that had to be made, we are as members of the audience are like, "Hey, wait a minute, what's he doing? What's going on?" But if we lived where he was going, we'd be like, "Yay, we got Tentacular." It's a refreshing way to look at it.
That's very true. But then there comes, he's extra heel,
yes.
Where it's really like, screw you. You'll never be able to top me, and I'm going to make sure that you don't top me. Yep. Is that insecurity?
Yes.
Or, okay.
First of all, you got to understand, most athletes, entertainers, all of us are insecure. This is why we do it. But the problem is, and this is the problem, is when it gets to, all these things go too far. And all of these things tend to hurt your relationships. They hurt the people you love, that whole, being a braggart and all of a sudden being an extra heel where you don't care about people's feelings, you start to insult people. I like to say, even when in the world of comedy, you have to be very, very careful that comedy, which is sometimes observing what's wrong with things in a funny way, you have to be very careful that comedy doesn't turn into cynicism. And when you turn into a cynic, is that you believe things are all bad and everything's bad and everybody's trying to get you and it's all evil and you react that way, it turns you into a real heel. And you know what I mean? So that's where a lot of people have seen rude celebrities or rude athletes or rude whatever, rude businessmen. It can happen to everybody if you're not careful.
Now, even though Tentacular views Steve as a nobody, what do you think he can learn from Steve?
Oh, first of all, the fact that Steve really, really just follows his own heart. And once he gets it and once he knows his own thing, because this is the thing too, we have to learn how to relax, how to enjoy, because there's to have it all and really not enjoy it is not the point. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's literally like, the way life works is not how, whoever dies with the most stuff wins. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
And I think what he could learn from Steve is the fact that you have to enjoy your life and you have to enjoy every bit of it. And you have to enjoy your friends. And there's a time, like, I have to say this. It's funny because I could win an argument with my wife, but lose the war. You know what I mean? Like, the house is not right. You know what I mean? I was like, I won. I proved my point. And you realize you're just stepping on hearts and it's not good. So that's what I'm saying.
As a voice actor, do you approach the character differently than, say, if this was a live action?
Oh, definitely. I approach this whole thing because, you realize there's a lot of things you don't imagine. There's a lot of things you don't see while you're doing it. And so you have to trust a lot of people, but also you have to be really vulnerable. Like, that's another thing. Like, sometimes with acting, you really want to come across with subtext. You don't want to show, you want to have really, really imperceptible ways of showing what the themes are. Whereas with voice acting, you really have to come out there. I mean, it has to show in your voice. You have to portray it without visuals. You know what I mean? And that involves a lot of vulnerability, a lot. And you're gonna sound. You ever listen to your voice and been like, man, I don't like the way that sounds?
Yeah, absolutely. Every day.
It's that a times 100 on an animated movie. Where you're like always judging constantly, like, could I have done that better? I didn't sound right. And you have to let it go. You have to really realize, wait, was I authentic? Did I do it the way I would do it in real life? Like how I would say things? And you have to trust it. And usually that works.
Okay. And also, if Tentacular could have like his own tagline, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Oh man. I guess it would be go big or go home. Go big, go home, don't mess with me.
And then I'll destroy your home later.
Go big or go home, and it's going to be you going home. You know what I mean?
Like that. And wondering, if Tentacular was given a spinoff, do you think he would be able to redeem himself? Or is he like, I'm going to continue with the heel?
Well, this is the thing. He's a likable character. Like, you know what I mean? I think he could turn it around. But see, you got to understand something about even the way the WWE works. I've seen characters that were heels for 3-4 years that turned into heroes. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way the story is. But I think why it's familiar is because it's life. All of us at one time or another can be a hero or a heel. You know what I mean? And it depends on where you're standing. It depends on where you live. And it depends on where you're watching. So all of us have been where like, some we've had experiences where you were not liked or whatever. And I think we have to embrace that as part of being human. And as bad as you can be a heel, the next day you can turn it around and be a hero.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking to me. I enjoyed everything.
Thank you, Dana. It's a pleasure. No problem.